Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to do something a little bit different right now. We are going to intentionally slow down. In a world that is just constantly rushing, buzzing, and demanding our immediate attention every single second, we're going to take a deliberate step back. We're unpacking some truly profound life lessons today, and they really require a quiet mind to fully appreciate. So go ahead and take a deep breath, get comfortable, and let's clear our minds for the journey ahead. Do you give your highest priorities your leftover time? Just let that sink in for a second. It's a deeply provocative question, isn't it? I mean, how often do we say that our personal growth, our peace of mind, or even our loved ones are our absolute top priorities? And yet we only offer them the exhausted, totally drained version of ourselves at the very end of the day. We're giving them whatever time is left over after the emails, the chores, and the endless doom scrolling. It completely challenges our modern mindset right out of the gate. This brilliant insight, along with literally everything else we're exploring today, comes from a remarkable collection called An Intimate Note to the Sincere Seeker by Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankar. Now, these notes span many years, and they aren't your typical, rigid academic lectures that you need to frantically scribble notes on. Instead, they're gentle, profound responses designed to guide a sincere seeker through real philosophical and spiritual growth. It's honestly like having an incredibly wise friend gently nudging you toward a better, much more peaceful understanding of yourself and your place in the world. Part 1. The Sincere Seeker. Let's look at what that actually means. Okay, let's dive into this. To truly learn and grow, we first have to understand what it actually means to be a seeker. And here's the thing. Being a seeker isn't about having all the answers. In fact, it's the exact opposite. A true seeker actively acknowledges knowing very little. You see, a lot of people get stuck in life because they think they already know everything, which, boom, immediately shuts the door to any new wisdom. A seeker avoids that trap by embracing their own lack of knowledge. Add to that a genuine willingness to learn, plus a non-judgmental, totally open mind, and you've got the perfect fertile ground for actual, meaningful personal growth. The master approaches this idea with such a wonderful touch of lightheartedness. He says, "What is the point in talking about something of which you know nothing? There is no point in talking about what you already know, and absolutely no point in talking about what you don't know." It's such a gentle, funny little poke at our human tendency to either endlessly repeat the things we're already comfortable with or to overly confidently pretend we understand things we clearly don't. It's a great reminder to approach our own understanding with a bit of humility, a sense of humor, and most importantly, a quiet mind. And this brilliantly illustrates how our minds manufacture our own stress. Gurudev uses this amazingly simple metaphor. If I put a piece of wood and a biscuit right in front of you, you don't have to agonize over deciding which one to eat, right? You just eat the biscuit. A decision is only required when there is confusion, when there is a choice between two viable options. Choice is exactly what causes our confusion. We constantly swing back and forth between pain and pleasure, weighing these endless options, and as a result, we're living in this state of perpetual decision fatigue. Recognizing that confusion is the first step, but the very next step involves letting go. Part 2. The power of sacrifice. So, the crucial point is that recognizing our confusion is just step 1, but the next phase involves entirely redefining the word sacrifice. Sacrifice is letting go of an attachment which gives you pleasure for something bigger that would bring good. In our super hyper-individualistic world, we usually think of sacrifice as, making our lives dull, joyless, or just miserable. We view it as losing something, but Gurudev frames it entirely differently. Letting go of a small attachment isn't a loss at all. Actually, scratch that, it's more like taking a massive quantum leap to a higher pedestal. It is the exact thing that brings zeal, strength, and true, lasting joy into your life. To make these leaps, to really know when to sacrifice and when to act, requires deep awareness. I want you to think of your awareness like window shutters. Imagine you're sitting in a house. When a violent, torrential storm rolls in, you must shut your windows, right? Otherwise, you're going to get completely soaked. You pull your awareness inward to protect yourself. But when that storm passes and it gets incredibly hot and suffocating inside the house, you absolutely must open those windows back up to let the fresh air in. Awareness isn't about always being open or always being closed. It's about the conscious ability to adapt to what your environment and your spirit actually require in any given moment. Part 3. Navigating time and choices. This level of awareness profoundly impacts how we experience our daily lives, and honestly, it brings us right back to our opening question. These specific notes from Hawaii urge us with this thought. If your prayers are not answered, it is because you have never given them quality time. Give prime time to the divine. We are really being urged to stop giving our inner peace, our spiritual values, and our meditation our leftover time. If you only turn inward after you've totally exhausted yourself on social media, parties, and doing the laundry, well, you simply aren't giving your inner life the prime time it needs to actually flourish. And this matters because how we treat our time completely changes how we experience it. Gurudev breaks down the dual nature of time perfectly. Think about it. When you feel like time is just too short, what does that actually mean? It means you're either feeling incredibly restless or you're in a state of beautifully expanded awareness, kind of like when you're doing something you deeply love and time just flies by. On the flip side, when time feels like it's absolutely dragging on forever, you're either deeply miserable or you are utilizing a very keen, highly focused mind. It's our internal state, absolutely not the clock on the wall, that dictates our reality. We can actually use this to our advantage by holding two seemingly opposite truths in our mind at exactly the same time. When you remind yourself that life is short, it strips away all those useless distractions. It brings a real dynamic energy. The unwanted things just fall away, and you stop procrastinating. But if you only think life is short, you might start feeling frantic and anxious. So you have to balance it with the soft, peaceful knowledge that life is eternal. Knowing life is eternal completely removes your impatience and your frustration. You use the shortness of life for focus and the eternity of life for deep, abiding peace.
Part 4. Waking up to dynamism.
Now, what's really interesting about this concept is how we actually live in that beautiful balance. We need to chart the vast difference between just knowing something in our head and truly feeling it in our existence. Intellectual understanding is literally just your brain saying, yes, I agree with that concept. It's entirely superficial. Experiential understanding goes a bit deeper. Your reaction changes to, oh, this feels obvious to me now. But the highest level is existential. At this level, the truth becomes irrefutable because it is your very nature. For example, knowing intellectually that you should be peaceful is entirely different from actually sitting and existing in a state of profound peace. We want to move from the intellect to existence. Because when we only live in our intellect, we suffer from what Gurudev calls feverishness. Feverishness is that frantic, breathless rush we all feel in modern life. It arises out of a deep sense of lack, this desperate, aching need to achieve something just to feel whole. We rush through our days with our shoulders tense and our breaths shallow. We absolutely need to contrast this with true dynamism. Dynamism might look active on the outside, but it is fundamentally different on the inside. Dynamism is an expression of fulfillment. You're acting and moving in the world not because you are desperate, but because you are full, content, and truly awake. Let's see how this builds to a beautifully simple golden rule. The golden rule is to be awake. Being awake, you cannot help but be dynamic. It really is that simple. When you apply the awareness we've been talking about, knowing when to open and close your shutters, giving your inner life your absolute prime time, moving from just intellectual agreement to a true existential feeling, you wake up. And when you are truly awake to the present moment, you automatically cure lethargy. You become naturally dynamic without any of that frantic stress that weighs so many of us down. Which brings us right to our conclusion and a truly brilliant paradox. Are you in a rush to slow down? Just think about that. How many of us are out there frantically reading self-help books, rushing through traffic to get to a yoga class, and aggressively trying to force ourselves to find peace? The rush itself is the exact problem. Just being softly aware of your own frantic pursuit of peace is often enough to cure it. So I want you to take this final thought with you today. Stop rushing, be awake, and give your highest self your prime time. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope it brought a little clarity and calm to your day.